And this recording will be posted up at our Engage Houston website. So for those who weren't able to attend this afternoon, there will be an opportunity to look at the presentation at our Engage Houston website. So good afternoon and welcome to the Oates Rd Design Concept Update. I am Valerie Luna, Outreach Coordinator. I am joined by representatives from, I see Commissioner Adrian Garcia's office, so welcome, George, and our RS&H consulting firm. During this presentation, we will be providing updates. Oh, there you go, George. Hi. Do you want to go ahead and say take a moment to say hello?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Jorge Bustamante, Planning Manager with Harris County Precinct 2. Happy to be here.
Great. Thank you, George. Again, and during this presentation, we will be providing updates on the design concept report and design options. Kindly ask that we hold questions till the end of the presentation. Back in late August, Houston Public Works and our consultant hosted a meeting about the rehabilitation project of Oates Road, which will be starting later this winter. And as announced during that meeting, we are returning again to discuss these concepts that will provide long-term solutions for the community and users of the corridor. We anticipate on applying for TIP funding early next year. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Donald Glenn and Allie Joyner with RS&H Consulting, who will be giving the presentation this afternoon. So Donald, again, you have permissions to share your screen. So if you want to go ahead and queue up the presentation.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay, and I certainly want to apologize if you hear a chainsaw in the background. They're actually doing some tree cutting, so if it becomes unbearable, please let me know. But as Valerie mentioned, in late August, we held a virtual public meeting and presented the Oates Road Rehabilitation Project, but also at that time we introduced the DCR process, which would be looking at a longer term, more comprehensive project. When we came to you in August, at that point, we had just completed collecting all of the existing conditions data and identified some of the deficiencies. Allie, next slide, please. Just to kind of give you some background, Oates Road, the segment that we're looking at is almost a 2-mile segment from US 90 to Wallaceville Road. It is in Council District I. Next slide. If you're familiar with the corridor, it's currently a 20-foot wide asphalt roadway. Unpaved shoulders, there are no sidewalks, it's open ditch, draining, mixed use along the roadway, has a right-of-way width of 100 feet. Next slide. As I mentioned, as part of the stage 1 was collecting the existing conditions data and doing an evaluation of the roadway. And what you see here, and it's some of the things we presented previously, were deficiencies identified. And for you that either live in the area or drive this roadway, I'm sure you can identify with the deficiencies that were identified. The poor pavement conditions, unpaved shoulders. There's no visible striping and pavement markings, and also identified some storm sewer system capacity issues, some flooding and ponding that occurs in the area. And there were limited pedestrian facilities, meaning that there are no sidewalks or paved sidewalks that exist along the roadway. During that time, we've been looking at various alternatives, and we've probably looked at 5 or 6 different alternatives, a combination of various improvement measures to address the deficiencies that were identified. Today, we are bringing forward 2 alternatives that we would like to get input on. And hopefully from that, we will identify what we call the preferred alternative out of those 2. And we'll take those forward for further development, which would eventually lead into design and then in future years, construction if the project goes through. And at this time, Allie Joyner, our lead traffic engineer, will go over the proposed alternatives.
Thanks, Don. I'll go ahead and apologize. I think there's a little lag on my end, so hopefully I'll give it just a second for the slides to come up. So our first alternative has the existing 2-lane configuration, but the lanes are widened to 11 feet, and these will include a 4-foot paved shoulder. There's also an 8-foot safety buffer between the edge of pavement and the 5-foot bike lanes on both sides. On either side of the bike lanes, there will be 6-foot sidewalks. The sidewalks and bike lanes can be separated by either an offset or a curb or just simple signing and pavement markings, and we'll figure that out as we move through stage 3. This option will have open storm water drainage like the road currently has. It'll have ditches, but the size of the ditches will be reduced. So we would supplement with some underground storm sewer. And I added these slides just to show you for your reference. But we will be improving the drainage from any alternative that we move forward with. Our second alternative includes a center turn lane and 2 11-foot travel lanes. This option has a 6-foot sidewalk on one side and a 10-foot shared use path on the other side. Just for reference, a shared use path is a wider path for both bicyclists and pedestrians to use. We also added an 8-foot safety buffer in this option just to increase the level of comfort for pedestrians. This option includes a curb and gutter, which would add even more underground storm sewer and remove the existing ditches. And here's the layout of what we're looking at for the drainage here. A little bit bigger pipes. And then we're just ready for your input.
Yes, thank you, Allie. Again, we will be sharing the presentation with Councilmember Gallegos' office, and we will be posting a PDF version along with the recording at our Engage Houston website. So, we want to make sure people get an opportunity to look at these alternatives, and we definitely want to hear from the public. So do we have any questions from our attendees at this time? If you want to unmute, you can go ahead. Yes, Randall?
Yes, this is Randall's wife. In looking at the 2 presentations, I believe that the alternate 2 would be an appropriate form for this area, but I heard something as the gentleman was explaining, if the project goes forward, something has to be done to Oates Road. We desperately need this project to go forward. I don't know that the bicycle lanes are something that's really needed, that would maybe, we'd get better use out of widening lanes within the Wynwood project. Is this really going to happen? We were told before Harvey in a meeting we had at the Knights of Columbus Hall that this project was on tap, and nothing has ever come of it until now. My concern is, will this really happen?
So we do plan on applying for TIP funding again early next year. Our principal planner, who's the project manager, wasn't able to attend this afternoon, but I can certainly get that question, get a more defined answer for you, and come back and have Donald reach out.
Well,
Our
this is
principal planner is also named Donald, so not to confuse anyone.
Okay.
Our project manager is also named Donald.
And also just providing some additional input. You mentioned the sidewalks and the shared youth path. Those were identified more so because it fits into the overall city's, pedestrian facilities plan. I certainly agree with you based off of sheer numbers. It's probably not required for Oates Road, but when you look at the entire system, that's why it's being looked at. But it probably, like the bike lane, won't take a priority over getting the roadway fixed.
Okay.
This is Randall. My understanding was that it was supposed to start so far as fixing the road at the beginning of next year or at the end of this year, that Mr. Garcia was going to start that project.
So we have a rehabilitation project that will be starting later this winter. That rehabilitation project is going just to preserve and extend the life of the current asset. What we're talking about here today are the long-term solutions. And
Okay.
again, we hope to get narrowed down into an alternative, an option that it best fits the community. Have a hand raised. Josh?
Yes, good afternoon. My question is, because we went over it in our last meeting, and from my understanding is they're doing the resurfacing, starting this month, and then it's gonna take a couple of months. But then they have that plan, I believe that's what you're speaking about today, on something that's more long-term. But why would we waste, funding the money doing this and then at a later date doing it all over again? Why not just do it now?
Yeah, and I certainly don't want to speak for the city, but the rehab project will extend the life of the roadway 2 to 5 years. And for this more comprehensive project, it would probably take 2 years before the design, the funding, all of that's in place, and just didn't want to leave Oates Road in its existing, condition. The longer term project will be a total reconstruction with improved drainage and everything. So I understand exactly where you're coming from, but it's not going to be a total throwaway, so to speak, because that's merely an overlay to improve the driving surface of the roadway, just so that, it will come up to an acceptable level of service while this longer term project is being developed.
Understood. Thank you for your answer. And that longer term, where you said a good 2 to 5 years from now?
Yeah, and that's, and the city probably have a better feel for that, but that's all depending on, getting the design, the funding, and then starting construction. So it's a longer process in terms of the project development when it's a total reconstruction.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Josh, for joining. And just to reiterate again, in the chat box, there is a survey available for you and your neighbors to take part in. We will be posting the survey, the presentation, and the recording at our Engage Houston website. There is already a webpage up for the rehabilitation project. And so this information will be added to that for you to share with your neighbors. Joaquin, did you have a question? I thought I saw you trying to type in the chat box.
No, I'm good. Just hearing the feedback from the residents, I was going to answer some of those on the chat box, but y'all are doing a great job of responding to the constituents that are bringing their concerns and questions.
Awesome. Did any of our attendees have any other questions? Nope. Okay.
Do we have a start date on the, on when Oates Road might be refurbished, so to speak?
So the exact start date for the rehabilitation for the resurface project is for sometime this winter. So I'm hoping that project will be in construction end of this month, early next month. But that is for the rehabilitation project.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for attending. I certainly hope we were able to answer your questions. Again, our Engage Houston website, myself, our project manager, Donald, monitor that website consistently. And we will be utilizing that platform to help shed some more light and get some further feedback on this project. So thank you so much, and y'all have a good rest of your day.
If you have any other questions, don't hesitate.
Thank you all.
Call, okay?
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.